Hello, everybody. If you aren't familiar with me, my name is Raquel Jordan, and I'm a yoga teacher in Los Angeles and Santa Barbara, California. I was moved to create this short video to speak to you all, and so you could see my face and see this body that I am in and share with you my own personal story in relationship to all that is happening right now in the world. I am having difficult conversations with people in my life, including family members, and I am opening up emails, 90% of which are letters coming from different people, companies, and organizations publicly apologizing for their complacency around racism and, proclaiming that they are going to take the steps they need to take to educate themselves and become what we call now active anti-racist, which is beautiful and phenomenal and so moving. And I've taken the time in this current moment just to sit with myself and feel and move through whatever grief is starting to rise as I see all of the pain that is present in our country. When I see, and I think this is a universal trait for humans, when we see pain or we see other people in pain, most of us have our own grief and our own pain we start to feel in our own bodies. We're wired this way to connect through seeing each other, and we call that mirror neurons. And this is exactly why I've chosen to do a video with you, so that you can connect to me, you can see me, and you can see my face, and you can also see my skin, and note that I am not black and I am not white. I am that person represented in the middle. I am brown. I have African American blood in my veins, and I have white blood in my veins. And my journey with this topic has been long-standing, and so I thought I could offer you guys some guidance through this journey as I see many of you starting to come into your focus, into your attention. And you're starting to realize there's certain things, whether they're biases that you've had and carry, because quite frankly, we all carry biases. We're all guilty of that. And or complacency, and in some cases, inherent prejudices that we have acquired from our culture, from our society. I ask that in all of this process, in all of this movement that clearly needs to happen in order for us to continue to evolve as a country, that you can find ways to continue to cultivate compassion for yourself and for others, but more importantly for yourself through this process. I'm hearing that a lot of people are feeling shame for not having spoken up or noticed this before. And there is a lot of grief moving through people as they start to turn their head and look in deeper to some of these things that have been under their noses. And I just want to say to those of you who are feeling that shame, please, shame is not what we need right now. And you can take yourself and you can put your hands on your heart and you can just have compassion for the fact that that is that you are a product of your environment, and that now that you know better, as Maya Angelou would say, you're going to do better. Because when you know better, you do better. And to my friends that are brown-skinned, and to my friends that are African American, that perhaps have been raised in more privileged, as you'd say, societies, I invite you also to the table to be compassionate with yourself Because a lot of us with brown skin who are colored can also feel shame, feeling like we haven't been as active in the front lines. Maybe we haven't said enough. It is complex for us because we carry shame on being our color, being our race. And it takes a while to unpack that, and it's a process. And I encourage everyone on the other line that is hearing me and seeing me to know that this journey of this work that we are doing to lift up Black voices, people of color, and marginalized societies, that the first thing that we really need to do is to sit with ourselves, develop this compassion. From wherever we've come, it's led us to here. And it hasn't all been our choices. It's been the way we've been raised. It has been our ancestral traumas and stories and histories that we've all collected through our bodies to come to the place we are now. And as you start to dive into your own history, I encourage you to get brave and curious. What are your current biases that go even beyond Black lives or anything on the topic of racism? Do you carry some of your own prejudices and biases? We all do. And can you start to go back and maybe witness or observe instances, perhaps, from where you might have gathered this information, this bias or prejudice information? And a lot of us are going to recognize that we got this message when we were very, very young, when we were children. And so again, I think the crucial, most important thing is we start to do this work is to cultivate self-compassion and to go in and bear witness to whatever it is we have experienced, heard, that has brought this ethos into our field. I think I want to stop there. I'll say that as a student of Off the Mat into the World, which, side note, if you've never heard of this organization, I am very, very grateful. I am deeply grateful for what I've learned from them. Off the Mat into the World has been around over 10 years, and they are 3 activists, leaders in social justice work that are also yoga teachers. And they've come together to teach other leaders these topics on social justice, on our biases. And ultimately their message rings true more than ever. That if we haven't done our own work, if we haven't explored or faced our own biases and our own prejudices, we are more than likely to do more harm than good out into the world. Because when you get triggered and when you have a whole world or crowd of people in a movement, most of them reacting and acting from a pain body or from a wound or from a trauma, which we are all in trauma right now for a lot of different reasons, we're not coming from a grounded place. We're not coming from a clear place. And ultimately, that is what does more harm than good. You also, if you haven't sat with your own biases and your own prejudices, you haven't cultivated enough compassion for yourself, you're not going to have that for other people. So for example, when I did my own individual work, and I remembered a time in my childhood where I was ashamed of being mixed. And I looked back and I remembered, oh my God, I had family members that denied this part of ourselves. This is something I learned. Oh my God, they didn't feel safe. They felt like they needed to hide it. Okay, that was something I had to own up to. I had to recognize I had prejudices against a particular skin tone and race that was in my blood. I was actually biased against some of my own ancestors. That's effed up. And by owning up to that and seeing that, all of a sudden I could claim a part of myself that for a long time I shamed, or I was ashamed of. And I could speak to it and I could be proud of it. But also, I could recognize that all those years when I was operating from that place, and still I'm sure there are other biases that I have that are still in my blind spots, that I could develop more compassion for other people who haven't yet done this work, which is so important. Can you still cultivate compassion and presence and patience with people who aren't aware yet that they have their biases, that they have somewhere deep down inside, they have their own prejudices? Because maybe they are afraid of your judgment, and maybe they are afraid that you will attack them. Now, it's one thing to say somebody who's not even interested in doing this work, well, those are not the people you're probably going to have a conversation with. But to the people that are starting to get curious about themselves now is not the time to ridicule them. Now is not the time to judge them for the ways they've behaved or the actions they have taken before that have exemplified these altered perceptions of good and bad, better than, or worse than. Now is the time to welcome those inquiries, to welcome those conversations, to thank people for when they can admit they've had a bias. Thank them for admitting it, because that is hard. And then we go further. Once we thank them, then we have a conversation we can start. Now suddenly people aren't afraid to ask questions. Get curious. That is where we need to go. That requires a lot of self-compassion and a lot of listening. So my invitation to you all during this time is to cultivate deep self-compassion so that you can have that for others. Curious about your own biases. One of my family members is doing that now, and watching her train of thought. And even though she's not racist, wow, she does have her biases. Recognizing those. That's where we need to go. And then hopefully that can leave room to open up another conversation, to open up an aha moment. I didn't know I had that bias. I didn't know I had that assumption. So we're going to end this talk with a short guided meditation. So I'd love for you to join me by taking your right hand, placing it under your left armpit, taking your left hand and placing it on your arm. And you can just play with squeezing the arm up and down, finding that comfort from your own body. You pick where you'd like the hand to go on the arm and pick how you'd like the pressure to be. I kind of start to channel my inner grandmother energy. This pose can feel really comforting and containing when you feel like you need to be held. And rocking might be nice. So you might start to gently find a rock back and forth or forward and back. Start to close your eyes. Maybe you feel your heart beating. You can feel the hand that's underneath your armpit, so close to the heart space. And start to breathe into the hand close to the heart. Focus on breathing into both front and backs of your body. And take a slow breath in. And as you exhale, feel the body start to anchor and root you into the earth. Take a few more rounds of this, inhaling. Exhale, rooting into the earth. Now just take a moment in the silence to hold your heart, to hold yourself and all that you are feeling and all that you're moving through. Can you be kind to yourself? Can you open your heart to feel, house compassion? I'm going to say a series of statements right now, and I invite you to repeat them after me. May you feel loved. May you feel safe. May you feel heard. May you forgive. May you be peace. Dropping your chin to your chest. Taking these moments to find a bigger breath. I want you to locate the parts of you touching the floor. Scrunching up your toes. Wiggling your seat. Connecting to the earth. Something greater than yourself. When you feel ready, and be gentle as you transition yourself, slowly opening your eyes. And please note that this work is ongoing. It's a journey. And we're given as much as we are ready to see and handle. So there is an unfolding process. Not everything at once. So continue to be kind, patient, and compassionate with yourself and those that are also here to learn, relearn, unlearn, and do the work. Namaste, everybody.